General Counsel, do we have a quorum?
Madam Chair, you do have a quorum.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jody Golden. I'm Chief of Staff for Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, filling in for the Lieutenant Governor this morning. I'm calling to order the November 2021 meeting of the IHCDA Board of Directors. We're meeting telephonically today pursuant to the current health emergency and Indiana Code 5-14-1.5-3.7. Since we're meeting telephonically, the procedures will be a little different from those we use during our regular board meetings. There will be an audio feed for the general public so that members of the public can listen to the meeting, and there will be a link to the video recording posted on IHCDA's website next month. At the time the motions are being made, each board member that makes a motion must state his or her first and last name for the record. I will now take a roll call of the board members to confirm who is present for the record. Mark Pascarella.
Present.
Indiana Treasurer State Kelly Mitchell.
I'm here.
J. June Midkiff. Andy Place Sr. G. Michael Schottmeyer.
Here.
And Tom McGowan. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken, I think that Board Member Place is there, but he may be having some audio trouble. Is that correct, Brian?
His microphone is live, so.
I thought we had him on earlier too, yeah.
He is here and his microphone is live. He's not muted.
Board Member Place, can you confirm you're here?
We'll continue to work on that.
Okay, so we'll continue to move forward.
Yes.
Okay. We'll move on to the first section of our agenda, approval of the minutes. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 28th, 2021 board meeting. Are there any questions from the board regarding the October 28th, 2021 minutes? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
Mike Schottmeyer, motion.
Mark Pascarella, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to the second item on our agenda, second section, the real estate department. Please welcome Alan Rakowski to present on recommendations for the 2022 low-income housing tax credit program and the LIHTC with the home investment partnerships, the Affordable Housing and Community Development Fund, and the Housing Trust Fund. Alan?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, members of the board. As mentioned, my name is Alan Rakowski, Director of Real Estate Allocation, here today to make the recommendations for the annual tax credit awards that go along with also some of our supplemental funding sources. So with that, we will jump right in to our presentation here. So beginning establishing how many tax credits we have for the 2022 tax credit round. The amount of credits we have for 2022 per capita credits is 17,562,877. And we have 296,910 remaining in 2021 per capita credits. That amount does include some national pool credits we got at the end of the year, which we're rolling into this year's round. So the total amount we have is 17,859,788 as of today. We do anticipate that will increase slightly. We're using the 2021's population figure, which helps determine how many credits the state gets. And once that's released in later this or in early 2022, we anticipate the amount will go up a little bit. So moving into a tax credit round summary for this round, we had 38 applications that came in. Total request was just over 41.1 million. 2,250,000 requested in home funding, 8.2 million requested in development fund, and 8.6 requested in housing trust fund. So the recommendation or the summary here today is we're going to be recommending 17 applications for funding. The total amount of credits that those 17 make up are $17,857,649. None of those projects we're requesting home. $3.8 million in development fund will be recommended, and $3 million in housing trust fund. And do also want to mention at the end of the presentation, we're also going to be recommending a wait list of 6 projects. And I'll get into the details towards the end of the presentation, but just want to make you aware of that as well as we start this presentation. So to recap the process that we went through to get to today, really the process began right after the last round ended. If you recall, the 2021 awards were made in February. The timeline was pushed back a little bit for last year's round. So once the round ended, we began our meetings and debriefs with developers who wanted to meet with us, who did not get funded, to determine if they should reapply or get feedback on their projects. So we did that for a few months after last year's round ended. June of 2021 is when we began to get notifications, and we had the deadline for any project that was going to come in had to send their notice of intent, and also rehab projects had to send their capital needs assessments to us a month ahead of time. Then the applications were due on July 26th. So once the applications came in, our team began our review process, which included review of threshold, underwriting, the market studies, cost analysis, and then scoring. Also, shortly after the application due date, we issued a memo to the applicants. This memo is done every year. It gives the applicants an idea of our timeline and when they could expect to hear from us on questions you might have regarding threshold, underwriting, and those other things that we look through as part of our review process. Also, towards the middle of August, we notified the highest elected officials. So every jurisdiction for which a tax credit project was submitted, we are required to notify the highest elected official, whether that be a mayor or town council president typically, to make them aware of the project that has to come in requesting credits to IHCDA. So after that point, we did not have any communication with the applicants until September 29th. That's when we issued our technical correction letters. So after we completed our threshold review, we went back to each applicant and sent them a letter for any items that were outside of our threshold requirements or areas that we just needed clarification on, and they had 2 weeks to respond to that. And then on October 26th, we issued our preliminary score sheets. So we do this each year. We compare our score to their self-score to let them know how we're scoring the project. This gives them a chance to see how we're scoring the project. Also, they then have 3 days to respond. Really, the point of this is to just make sure that they see where the differences are and to make sure that they have the opportunity to tell us if we may have missed something or if there's something else that they submitted that we need to consider. So they had 3 days to respond to that. Then once we had those responses, we met as a team to finalize scores. I do want to acknowledge the team. Again, this is completely something that's a group effort. So you can see a large number of real estate staff are involved in this. Just want to give a shout out to them. Jerry Bain, Megan Bowman, Ryan Hamlet, Megan Heber, Holly Lester, Peter Nelson. I also want to give Peter kudos for the one that put together this PowerPoint today. Emma Osterley, Doug Newport, Jack Powell, and Matt Rayburn. Again, spent a lot of time working together as a team to get to the point where we can make the recommendations here today. So with that, I'll begin the 2022 rental housing tax credit recommendations by sharing with you each project that we're recommending. The first project is 34 East. This project will be in Marion, requesting $1,065,000 in credits. It'll have 42 units. Family designation, new construction. Advantix Development Corporation will be the developer, and it's being funded out of the community integration set aside. Next, we have Baker Flats. This project will be in Evansville, requesting $861,111 in tax credits, $500,000 development fund loan. It'll have 52 units. This will be age restricted, and as I mentioned, in Evansville, new construction, and the developer is Partnership for Affordable Housing. And this project is being recommended out of our general set aside. Next is Booneville Senior Lofts in Boonville. Tax credits at $980,000, development fund loan at $500,000. These will be 45 units of age-restricted housing. It'll be new construction. MBAH Development LLC will be the developer, and this project is being recommended out of the rural set aside. Next is Chapman Crossing. This project will be in Corydon. tax credits, $1,183,000. Development fund amounts, $350,000 requested. It'll have 48 units. It'll have a family designation. This will be new construction developed by Woody Cooper Development, and it'll be competing or being recommended out of the rural set aside. Next is City View Homes 2. This project will be in Muncie. $1,085,000 in credits. It'll have 40 units, family designation, new construction. MVAH Development LLC will be the developer, and this project's being recommended out of the small city set aside. Next is Clare Gardens. Clare Gardens will be in LaGrange. The tax credit amount is $660,000, $450,000 in development fund. It'll be age restricted, 35 units of new construction. Keller Development Inc. will be the developer, and this project is coming out of the community integration set aside. Next is Electric Works. This project will be in Fort Wayne, requesting $1,194,137 in tax credits. It'll have 75 units, age restricted, new construction. Big TC Development LLC will be the developer and being recommended out of the large city set aside. Next is Englewood Homes. This will be in Indianapolis. Tax credits at $1,156,220. It'll have 40 units, family designation, new construction developed by Englewood CDC. This will be primarily single family homes for rental, and qualified not-for-profit is a set aside that this project is being recommended out of. Hespera Indianapolis is our next project. This one will also be in Indianapolis. Tax credits at $1,014,164. They are also requesting $1.5 million housing trust fund. It'll have 40 units. This project is supportive housing being developed by Vicino Bond Group, new construction, and being recommended out of our Housing First set aside. Next is Evansville Townhomes 3 in Evansville, $1,020,000 in credits. It'll have 64 units, family designation, having both new construction and rehab as part of the project. Advanix Development Corporation will be the developer, and it's being recommended out of the large city set aside. Franklin Cove is the next one in Franklin. The tax credits will be $1.2 million, requesting $500,000 in development fund. It'll have, or it has 108 units. This is family designation, and it is rehab, so it's rehab of existing housing. Wallach Handy Development Company will be the developer, and this one's being recommended out of a preservation set aside. Isabel Gardens will be in Fort Wayne, $1,110,500 in tax credits, $500,000 in development fund. It'll have 66 units, family designation, new construction. Keller Development Inc. will be the developer, and this one's being recommended out of the general set aside. Jacobsville 2 apartments will be in Evansville. This project has just under $693,000 in credits are requested, $500,000 development fund loan. It'll have 36 units, again, a family designation. This is rehab, so it's already existing housing, being developed by Gratis Development LLC and recommended out of a preservation set aside. Mullen Flats will be in Terre Haute, $1.2 million in credits, $1.5 million in housing trust fund. This is our other supportive housing recommendation. It'll have 42 units, new construction. Midwest Support Foundation is the developer, and it is being recommended out of the Housing First set aside. North Harbor Homes will be in East Chicago. This project is requesting $1.2 million in credits. It'll have 42 units, family designation, new construction. Developer is MVAH Development LLC and being recommended out of the small city set aside. Next is Stanley Terrace, which will be in Plainfield. Credits at $1,139,000, $500,000 development fund loan. This also will have a family designation, 60 units of new construction in Plainfield. Woody Cooper Development Inc. is the developer, and this project's being recommended out of the small city set aside. Next is the 2525 in Warsaw, requesting 1.2 million in credits, 500,000 development fund, 60 units, family designation. It also will be new construction. The developer is Legacy 25 Inc. and it's being recommended out of the qualified not-for-profit set aside. So that completes the 17 recommendations that we have for this year's tax credit round. Here's a map to show you a distribution where these projects are throughout the state. So we're pleased with this. You see that it is spread around across the state, good representation, I think, from each region. But it's always helpful, I think, to see this kind of a graphic to show you where these developments will be. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we also are creating requesting that we have a wait list approved. So as the memo talks about, IHCDA is aware of some proposed federal legislation that could increase the amount of 2022 credits that we would have. This would increase, this legislation passes, it would increase our multiplier, which is currently $2.60 per resident to $3.14 per resident. So that would give us approximately $3.6 million in additional credits. So we don't know, if this will be passed. We're hopeful that it will be. Again, we don't know the timing either. But we want to create a waiting list in the event that we do receive this additional funding through that legislation. And what we did is we created a waiting list with the 5, I guess you could say that the 6 highest scoring applications that are not being recommended for funding today. So those 6 applications, and these are ranked again just by score with no consideration to set aside. Princeton Place in Princetown, Princetown Place in Princeton, Harrison Crossing in Newburgh, Diamond View Apartments is the 3rd in South Bend. The 4th is Downtown Sullivan Townhomes in Sullivan, Marquette School Lofts in South Bend, and the James in Evansville. So we're proposing this wait list with the wait list set to expire by April 1st of 2022. So hopefully by then we would receive those additional credits. And then once we do receive those additional credits, we'll begin going down the list and seeing if these projects can move forward at a little bit later date than the other recommendations today. But we'll go through this list and allow them to accept the credits. If for some reason they can't, we'll go to the next one on the list. But we believe having 6 on the list will ensure that we have enough projects to use any additional credits we might get. So I believe that concludes my presentation. At this point, I'll pause and be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Or do we have any questions for Alan? No questions? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mike Chapman.
Actually, do we need a resolution? I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah, I can proceed with the first resolution here. Okay, so staff respectfully requests that the board approve the following resolutions. Resolve that the board approve the following: an aggregate amount of LIHTC in the amount of $17,857,649, an aggregate award of development fund in the amount of $3,800,000, and an aggregate award of housing trust fund in the amount of $3 million, 17 developments listed in Table A as more particularly identified in the development summary sheets as recommended by staff. Should I proceed to the second or pause here?
General Counsel, should we take a vote on both at the same time or separate votes? 2 votes?
No, I have Andy Place on the phone right here, and he can hear everything being said. And so he did vote positive on the first one. And Andy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Andy, can you speak for a second?
General Counsel, I was just asking, we'll go ahead, Alan, if you want to go ahead with the second resolution and we'll vote, we'll have 1 vote.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right, so the second one, resolved that the board approve the following: the wait list delegation authority to IHCDA to approve an allocation of LIHTC in an amount not to exceed additional 9% credit volume authority for 2022 that may be granted to IHCDA through federal legislation, an allocation of development fund in an amount not to exceed $1 million, and an allocation of home in an amount not to exceed $750,000 to the developments on the wait list as described above in Table B as recommended by staff.
Chairman Golden, I reinstate my motion to pass both resolutions. And I commend the staff. This is an enormous amount of work that's been done and fabulous job.
I'll second everything just said. This is Kelly Mitchell.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Andy
Any
Place
opposed?
says aye also.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank
All
you,
right,
Alan.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to section B of our real estate category of our agenda today. Please welcome Jeff Z. to present a recommendation regarding the project-based voucher award for permanent supportive housing. Jeff?
Good morning, board. This is on page 83 of the board memo or the board packet, in case you're trying to find it. This, as you said, this award is for project-based vouchers for Mullen Flats, which was just awarded tax credits a moment ago. A little bit of background on our project-based voucher program. Our HCDA administrative plan outlines the policies that we have for awarding project-based vouchers to developments, and that is approved annually in September by the board. Our process is that we can either award vouchers to projects that were previously selected through a competitive process. For IHCDA, that competitive process is the Indiana Permanent Supportive Housing Institute. Mullen Flats was selected for the Institute last year and completed it last spring, or we can issue an RFP. So all of our project-based voucher awards are for projects that will be implementing permanent supportive housing, and the vouchers are to be used in those permanent supportive housing units. This provides us some additional rental subsidy for those households that are coming out of chronic homelessness, knowing that it's going to take some time for them to gain some income as they're receiving services to address some of those underlying conditions that may have contributed to their stay in homelessness. So for this project specifically, it's located in Terre Haute. This applicant does have some previous permanent supportive housing in Terre Haute that we believe has performed well, so we're excited to continue working with them and increase the supply of permanent supportive housing in Terre Haute. There is 42 one-bedroom units in this property. All 42 units will be receiving permanent-based voucher or project-based vouchers at the current HUD calculated fair market rent. Those awards will be for a maximum of $629 per month in rent for each of the 42 units. And then the housing assistance payment contract term will be for 15 years, which matches the compliance period on the tax credit award. Additionally, some things that we'll be tracking for performance on the project is the utilization of the awarded vouchers, so essentially vacancy rate, the total number of chronically homeless households served, and the compliance of the project with HUD regulations through the 15 years. So I can take any questions from the board.
Okay, board, do we have any questions for Jeff? Okay, hearing none. Jeff, do you have a resolution?
Yeah. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolutions. Resolved that the board approve an award of 42 project-based vouchers to Mental Health America of West Central Indiana for Mullen Flats for a period of 15 years based on the annual fair market rents for Vigo County as recommended by staff.
Okay, do I have a motion?
This is Kelly. I will move.
Okay, do we have a second?
Mark Pascarella, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Andy Place is in favor also.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, we'll move on to the next section, monthly update tax credit assistance program, policy and delegated authority. Please welcome back Alan Rakowski to present the monthly update on the tax credit assistance program, policy and the delegated authority.
Yes, thank you. Hello again. So this will be fairly quick, I think. We're just giving you the board a monthly update. So if you recall, on September 23rd, the board gave IHCDA's Deputy Executive Director and Chief Real Estate Development Officer delegated authority to take all actions necessary to distribute allocations of TCAP funding to tax credit deals that have been negatively impacted by cost increases. We then also agreed to provide a monthly update to the board on all awards that we are making. So this is our first monthly update. We did not have any awards in October, so just providing you an update of the awards that we made. You have a list of 2 projects that received awards. Erie Point in Evansville, they requested the full amount, $500,000, and North End Apartments in Carmel were approved for $213,870. So those are the 2 awards made so far. We have received a total of 8 applications, and we're continuing to work through those. Additional applications will come back to the board as any of those projects are awarded. So no action is needed, but I just would like to pause and give you a chance to ask any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Alan, board? Okay, well, thank you, Alan. We appreciate the update.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, please welcome Peter Nelson to present on the Development Fund Policy and Delegated Authority. Hi, Peter. Peter, I think you're muted.
Thank you. I mute twice just to be sure I'm not interrupting anyone. So I got the second one. We're good now. Okay, good morning, everyone. Yeah, so our development fund policy was developed similar to the TCAP policy that Alan had recommended. As we saw with the recent tax credit awards, our development fund is usually used for gap financing for projects, but we have also used it to fill additional gaps in situations where costs have risen. One example of this is at the end of 2016 when tax credit applications had come in and we saw a sharp drop in equity prices, knowing that these projects wouldn't get the amount of funds that they had initially anticipated. We offered some development fund as a way to fill some of the gaps. So in September, when we released our TCAP policy, when the TCAP policy was approved by the board, we had some recipients of our home funding reach out to us and ask if they could apply for that. We determined that the TCAP funding historically was and should be continued to be used for tax credit projects, but wanted to create a policy for those recipients to be able to fill the gap in similar instances. So we created this development fund policy and released that on October 14th for existing home funds that are experiencing cost increases to fill that gap that they may be experiencing. We accepted public comments for 2 weeks. At the conclusion of the public comment period, we received and reviewed all of the comments. We didn't receive a lot, but the ones we did receive and review, we determined that no changes were needed to the initial draft policy that we had posted on October 14th. So we have put forth that policy as our final policy that I'm recommending today, and you can see that in Exhibit A. Just a quick overview of that policy. We are offering loans of up to $500,000 to these projects that are experiencing gaps. Eligible applicants will be developments with a fiscal year 2018 or 2019 home rental award. So any development that was funded in August of this year, they have a fiscal year 2020 home award and are ineligible. We figure these awards would have known about the cost increases and would be able to kind of cook those into their budgets, so they shouldn't need that assistance. Also, any LIHTC tax credit development is ineligible, as they would be eligible for the TCAP awards. Similar to our development fund policy, anybody receiving an award of this development fund who hasn't closed on their financing, closing must occur within 60 days of securing this commitment, and cost increases must be due to unforeseen occurrences due to the onset of COVID. Additionally, development fund Our policy requires that a certain percentage of the units are set aside as development fund assisted, and half of the development fund assisted units must be designated at or below the 50% area median level of income and rents. So these development fund loans, we will be offering them as loans with 0% interest up to a 15-year term. And we will consider any request to be cash flow contingent, but our underwriting team will review and determine on a case-by-case basis if they should be structured as a must-pay annual payment or if they can be legitimately a cash flow award. When we receive these applications, all of the applications will be reviewed and approved by a committee that will consist of IHCDA staff members, our Deputy Executive Director and Chief Real Estate Development Officer, our Director of Real Estate Allocation, our Director of Real Estate Lending, myself, the Home and Housing Trust Fund Manager, and the Real Estate Investment Underwriter will all be a part of this approval committee. And we expect, similar to the development or the TCAP policy that we just heard an update on, that we will update the board each month if any new awards had been made. We are asking for delegated authority for this as well, and we expect the delegated authority will expire at the conclusion of the review of all the applications that are submitted under this policy. So we do have 2 recommendations and we'll have 2 resolutions. So we are recommending the board approve the development fund policy and that the board approve the delegated authority to make these awards. I will take direction from the board if we want to take these as 2 resolutions or do them as a single one, but I am happy to take any questions at this point.
Or do you have any questions for Peter? Unless there's objection, I think we can take them both as one action. Peter, if you'd like to go ahead.
Great. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolutions. Resolved that the board approve the development fund policy as described in Exhibit A, and resolved that the board authorize IHCDA's Deputy Executive Director and Chief Real Estate Development Officer to take all actions necessary to distribute additional allocations of development fund to home projects that were negatively impacted by cost increases, provided that the board is informed of any new awards made on a monthly basis as recommended by staff.
Board, do I have a motion?
So moved, Mike Schottmeyer.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Art Pascal.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Andy Place agrees.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. I think we'll keep Peter here for a second to present a recommendation regarding the National Housing Trust Fund policy and delegated authority. Peter?
Yes, so the National Housing Trust Fund policy and delegated authority request is very similar to the development fund. Just a quick background on the National Housing Trust Fund is this program was created to create housing opportunities to serve extremely low income households, so those at or below 30% of the area median income. IHCDA allocates our housing trust fund specifically for supportive housing for persons experiencing homelessness. These awards are made typically as gap financing for home and tax credit projects. So along with meeting the federal requirements for the Housing Trust Fund, they also have to meet the requirements for either the home or tax credits as set forth in the home rental policy or the QAP, respectively, if they're awarded as that gap financing. So similarly, we put forth this policy, the draft policy, on October 14th of this year, allowing housing trust fund deals experiencing a gap to come in and request additional funding. Public comments were accepted until October 28th. At the conclusion of this comment period, again, we reviewed the comments and determined no changes were needed to the draft policy to make that final. So the final policy is set forth in Exhibit A. Similarly, eligible applicants are those with an allocation of home and housing trust fund awards or developments funded solely with housing trust fund. Again, any tax credit development is ineligible for this funding. We would expect that they would apply for tax credit funding if they are experiencing or the TCAP funding if they're experiencing a gap. Two of the same requirements, the cost increases must have been due to unforeseen occurrences that coincided with COVID. And if they haven't closed on financing, closing must occur within 60 days of securing this commitment. We also noted eligibility is required that they continue to meet all of the HUD and IHCDA housing trust fund policies, including subsidy limitations. So we will be making these housing trust fund awards as grants. The existing award agreements and the housing trust fund lien will be modified to reflect the additional housing trust funds, and any housing trust fund development are subject to a 30-year affordability period. So any application coming in for requesting this housing trust fund are going to go through the same committee as I had mentioned with the development fund policy. So staff members again are the Deputy Executive Director, Chief Real Estate Development Officer, Director of Allocation, our Director of Lending, Home and Housing Trust Fund Manager, and our Real Estate Underwriter. So we do expect, again, any awards that are made will be presented to the board as an update each month. And again, any delegated authority granted to us will expire at the conclusion of the reviews of all applications submitted under this policy. So with this, we are recommending the board approve the housing trust fund policy and the delegated authority to make those awards, provided we make monthly updates to the boards on any new awards that are made. Happy to take questions at this point.
Okay. Board, do we have any questions for Peter? Peter, did you have a resolution?
Yes, I will have two again. Hearing no questions, I'll go ahead and offer them both. Staff respectfully request the board approve the following resolutions. Resolved that the board approve the National Housing Trust Fund policy as described in Exhibit A, and resolved that the board authorize IHCDA's Deputy Executive Director and Chief Real Estate Development Officer to take all actions necessary to distribute additional allocations of Housing Trust Fund to existing Housing Trust Fund projects negatively impacted by cost increases, provided that the board is informed of any new awards made on a monthly basis as recommended by staff.
Okay.
Move for approval, Mike Schottmeyer.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Andy Place approves.
Any opposed? Okay, seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to section F of our agenda today. Please welcome Ryan Hamlet to present a Creating Places update. Ryan?
Good morning, board. I'm Ryan Hamlet, IHCDA Placemaking and Environmental Review Manager, and I'm here to do two things today. One is to give you an annual update on the Creating Places program, and then also to request reallocation of funds to continue it into next year. So first and foremost, let me go through a quick annual update for you for Creating Places. Ryan, there we go. Just a quick refresher for this program. Creating Places is IHCDA's innovative crowd granting program. It provides matching grant opportunities for nonprofit agencies and local units of government to develop projects that activate underutilized space in their communities. It kind of combines maybe kind of a Kickstarter situation, a crowdsourced funding with matching grants that allows donors to literally buy into projects and have some ownership in votes on local improvements with their dollars, and also allows IHCDA to kind of stretch the granting dollars that we have. They can request between $5,000 and $50,000 in grants, and they hone their project and create a fundraising campaign with our partner, Bridget Anderson, who is the Indiana director at our partners at Patronicity. They come to IHCDA for approval, and when they're ready to launch, they launch their campaign on the Patronicity website. And if they hit their goal by a specified time, IHCDA then gives them a matching grant for their original target amount. And if their campaign is successful and they've reached their grant of money, they have 1 year to complete their project. On to the next year. So I'm going to start a little, as far as data goes, small picture and work larger. So one of the goals that we had with this last year was to try to reach into communities that we hadn't served yet. So all of this data is between now and when I last gave a program update in last October. Since that time, we've served 10 new counties, 4 of which did both feet in the water and had 2 different projects. Brian, next slide, please. This next slide shows all of the campaigns that we've had since the last board update. So we've had 39 total campaigns, 3 of which are currently still live. 36 have completed their campaigns, and 37 have been successful. That number is due to 1 of the 3 that's currently live having already met their goal. Since I last spoke to you, we've had a stretch of 39 straight successful campaigns. So knock on a particle board table. We hope that stretch continues into the foreseeable future, because we definitely want to have people benefit from this program and not have campaigns go through. So we've had some excellent success this year. We've not had a project this year that wasn't funded. This next slide shows a breakdown of the program for its entire 5-year duration. So since the program's inception in 2016, we have served 58 of 92 counties, or rather 58 of the 92 counties have at least had a campaign. Marion County and Indianapolis lead the way with 21, and we've had a lot of success up in the South Bend, Mishawaka region, in Columbus and Richmond and LaPorte. In this coming year, it is one of our goals to kind of continue to reach into these counties that on the map are white, where we do not have a program or a campaign thus far. I'd like to close out the donut counties and hit those corner counties up in Steuben and Posey and Switzerland as well. On to the next slide. So this is some data that just kind of breaks down the program over through year 5. To date, we've had 146 completed campaigns. As I said, there are 3 more currently live, so that's a total of 149. We actually just approved the 150th campaign, but it has not launched yet, so we're moving right along there. 140 of those 146 have been successful, so this program has a 96% success rate. So if you have a project that goes on to Patronicity, there's a really good chance that that's going to get funded and you're going to get matching grants from IHCDA. So all of those 140 projects have crowd-funded not quite $5.6 million from donors. And for that, they've received a little over than $4.7 million in matching grants from IHCDA. And as a whole, it's leveraged not quite $15 million in project funding as a whole as well. In total, our projects have about a little over a $4 to $1 grant ratio for what we are in IHCDA's every $1. We've got $4 worth of investment from outside the agency, and all of our projects have created almost 900 jobs and activated nearly 11 million square feet of under-activated space. And then there at the bottom of the slide, it kind of breaks down by project. Next slide, please. So just a quick kind of going through one of the challenges this program has had over the last year. Last year in 2020, obviously, there were some COVID issues. In 2021, it is extended to that, but it's not necessarily the virus as much as it is our friends in real estate development can probably relate to this, material availability. And so some of our projects have asked for extensions beyond the 1-year limit, just due to limitations of getting materials and cost increases. And so we work with those projects. Bridget works with them to kind of keep them moving along and do everything that we can to provide all the assistance we can do to kind of get those projects completed so people can see the fruits of their donations and we can actually serve the community with those projects. There on the next slide are a couple things I wanted to highlight before actually kind of highlighting a few individual projects. So one of the projects that I had last year that you might remember, the Richmond Winter Farmers Market, which was a project that activated the Star Gannett building in Richmond and turned it into a quasi-indoor, quasi-outdoor space where their Winter's Farmers Market could go through in a COVID space facility. They won the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce Quality of Place Award. We have a project in Batesville that received an additional $50,000 from T-Mobile for their hometown grant program. That project's the building community and celebrating remarkable women. And also, I'm happy to say that Vermont, the state of Vermont, is about ready to launch their own crowdfunding place-based program, loosely based on creating places, and also our predecessors in Michigan. So Vermont will have the Better Places placemaking grant program too. And we've talked with them on how to kind of hone that project as well. So that's cool going on in Vermont. So that as well. I do want to highlight very quickly, because I know this is a long board meeting, 3 of our projects pretty quickly. The first of which is the Women's Legacy Memorial in Kokomo in Howard County. Next slide, please. So this project was sponsored by the local Disabled American Veterans Chapter 28, and it was specifically the passion project of a local Vietnam vet named Jerry Paul, who rightfully felt that there's a lack of memorials in this country who recognize the service and sacrifice of women throughout our history. This finished memorial that you can see in this photo here is in the northeast corner of the Howard County Courthouse and features 3 statues by sculptor Benjamin Victor. And for those of you who are not up on your contemporary sculptors, Victor is the only living sculptor to have 3 statues in the National Statuary Hall in the U.S. Capitol. So these 3 statues that are here, there's in the front a kneeling servicewoman with a prosthetic leg and a musket, and she represents the sacrifice over the full nation's arc from its founding to today. Behind her, there's a Rosie the Riveter statue that kind of represents the perseverance of work put into this nation's successes. And on the right is a statue of Shauna Rochelle Kimbrough, who is a Lafayette native, and she's the nation's first female African-American fighter pilot. And she represents breaking through those barriers through service over the time spent with the nation. So this is a particularly awesome project that we had ribbon cutting earlier this summer. In the next slide, there is the Indy Night Market, which was a series of 2 events held in Indianapolis. Next slide, please. The night market was a food arts and cultural festival that was a collaboration between the organizations Growing Places Indy and the Be Nimble Foundation. It played off the kind of traditional daytime farmers market where the night market highlighted the city's food scene on 2 different nights on Juneteenth in Pan Am Plaza, although I think it rained, so I think they had to move into one of those hockey facilities next to Pan Am Plaza. And the United Way headquarters in North Meridian on the 30th of September. And Brian, actually, could you skip back to the previous slide real quick? The young lady here on the right is Obi. She's actually one of the vendors that was at the night market. She's a 15-year-old entrepreneur who owns the Mocking Plant, a pop-up restaurant that offers 100% plant-based comfort food. And so she was one of the vendors at the night market. So skip ahead 2 more, please. There we go. And this is the last project I wanted to highlight. This is the Save the Rail Tower project in Union City and Randolph County. As you can see here, we literally lifted a building and moved it through downtown Union City. If you've not been to Union City before, it spans the border between Indiana and Ohio, and it is the results, it sprang up in the 1800s due to the railroads. And so this building was one of the few remaining historic structures in their downtown that was related to their rail history. It's a switch tower that allowed people to be in in the building and switch between the tracks. And it was basically abandoned since the 70s. CSX was looking to tear it down because they didn't want it to fall into the tracks. And so the city worked with us to raise funds to literally pick up the building and move it one city block south to the Artisan Park, where it's going to be renovated into a public restroom facility and on the second floor, a visitor center. And I think one of the cool things about this particular crowdfunding campaign is they received a $5,000 donation from the family of a gentleman who worked in that tower from 49 through 1968. And so they found out about the project and helped make it come to fruition in their father's memory. That is the end of kind of my update for the year. Before I move into asking you for more money, I'd happily entertain any questions that you guys might have about the update or any projects that we've had thus far.
Or does anyone have a question?
It's not a question, it's just a comment. I just really appreciate this program, and that it makes differences in quality of place and quality of life for so many communities, and that they're engaged in it as well. I just think it's really special.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, not to do your job for you, Jody, but on the 109 of the packet is the board memo for potentially asking you for more funds. Rather than going back through any more of the details, as far as that goes, I could probably just move into recommendation from there, if that's okay.
I think that sounds good.
Fair enough. So recommendation, the staff recommends the following. The board authorizes IHCDA staff to take all actions necessary to approve the allocation of the crowdfunding grants, provided that the board is informed of all crowdfunding awards on a quarterly basis, and that the board approves of the allocation of development fund in the form of grants in the amount not to exceed $1 million to continue for the program's 6th year. And then I also have 2 resolutions if you want me to do them both at the same time.
Yeah, sure, that'd be great, Ryan.
Absolutely. Staff respectfully requests the board to approve the following resolutions. Resolved that the board authorizes IHCDA staff to take all actions necessary to approve the allocation of the crowdfunding grants, provided that the board is informed of all crowdfunding awards on an annual basis as recommended by staff. Also resolved that the board approves the allocation of development fund in the form of grants in an amount not to exceed $1 million as recommended by staff.
Madam Chairman Golden, let the record show that a Winchester graduate is moving to support the resolution, even though Union City is listed as one of the recipients. So that's our rival high school, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Schottmeyer. Do I have a second?
I will second. Kelly Mitchell.
Thank you, Kelly. Seeing we have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Andy Place approved.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, board.
Okay, we'll move on to the third section of our agenda today, the Community Services Department. Please welcome Kristen Garvey to present a recommendation regarding the 2021 COC sub-recipient funding. Hi, Kristen.
Hi. Again, my name is Kristen Garvey, and I'm the grants manager for the Community Services Division at IHCDA. For this resolution, you can find the corresponding material in the board packet starting on page 111. Last month, I was in front of you to obtain approval for the FY 2021 Balance of State Continuum of Care Allocations and Methodology. Once approved by HUD, that funding would be for COC projects starting in 2022. But I'm here today for a request to approve subrecipients for 2 renewal grants IHCDA received in 2020. Last year, HUD did not require a COC competition because of the pandemic. Instead, they gained congressional approval to renew all current projects automatically. So this funding has already been granted to IHCDA. We are now at the point where we will engage subrecipients to carry out the purpose of these grants. The first group of subrecipients is for our domestic violence funding. HUD provides a special definition category for individuals and families fleeing domestic violence or who are victims of human trafficking or other forms of intimate violence. Those fleeing these situations are considered homeless if they have no other residence and they lack the resources or support networks to obtain other permanent housing. There are two funding projects in the domestic violence category. One is for rapid rehousing, which provides short-term rental assistance and supportive services. And the other is transitional housing, rapid rehousing, which provides immediate emergency housing or shelter while more suitable housing resources can be identified. We received funding totaling $1,420,700 for rapid rehousing and $573,365 in joint transitional housing and rapid rehousing. Last year, IHCDA engaged a single sub-recipient who was chosen to coordinate those funds. They in turn sub-granted those funds to direct service providers. For the upcoming grant year, those sub-grantees will become direct sub-recipients of IHCDA. All 7 rapid rehousing organizations participated last year. 2 of the transitional housing rapid rehousing organizations participated in this program last year, while 1 responded to an RFP to be considered for a capacity building project in which they will receive extensive technical assistance to build a program. The second group of sub-recipients for this funding is for coordinated entry, or CE. Each year, IHCDA receives an annual award of $274,000 to administer the CE system for the balance of state. This process helps communities prioritize assistance based on vulnerability and severity of services needs to ensure that people who need assistance the most can receive it as quickly as possible. Each region has a lead organization to provide leadership and oversight for the CE system in that region. Because of the additional caseload those organizations undertake as CE leads, the Community Services Division is recommending that they receive a small grant to offset expenses incurred on behalf of the balance of state. The amount of requested funds to be provided to these subrecipients equals $175,000, and IHCDA retains the remainder to cover administrative and staff costs related to this program. The list of subrecipients and their funding amounts are listed in Exhibit A, which has been provided for you. Thank you for your attention. At this time, I can answer any questions you might have.
Okay, board, do we have any questions for Kristen? Okay, Kristen, do you have a recommendation?
Yes. The staff respectfully requests that the board pass the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve allocating COC funds in the aggregate amounts not to exceed $1,234,919 for DV rapid rehousing, $583,277 for DV transitional housing and rapid rehousing, and $175,000 for coordinated entry for the grant year beginning December 1st, 2021 for the organizations listed in Exhibit A.
Okay, board, we have a resolution. Do we have a motion?
This is Kelly. I will approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Andy Place approves.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Kristen.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to section 4 of our agenda today, the Finance Department. Please welcome Rich Harcourt to present a recommendation regarding the WC Moving Forward RD 4% LP.
Good morning, board. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. You've had a long day, and I've got a short and sweet, simple conclusion to the approvals. The purpose of this memo and the attached resolution is to request approval for the issuance of additional Series 2021 Multifamily Housing Revenue Bonds, WC Moving Forward RD 4% Limited Partnership Project not to exceed $4,075,000 known as the bonds. So you all approved this project initially in December of 19. You approved both the tax credit and the bond volume. And then in September of 20, you approved the issuance of $4 million for IHCDA to be the issuer of the $4 million note. This is a non-recourse note issued by IHCDA. And today we're just asking to increase that approval from $4 million to $4,075,000. $75,000 increase that allows the project to meet the 50% test required for the 4% credits. So with that, I'll be glad to stop and take questions and then offer the resolution.
Any questions for Rich, board? Okay, Rich, if you want to go forward with the resolution.
Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve the issuance of additional series 2021 multifamily housing revenue bonds, parentheses, WC moving forward RD 4% limited partnership project, close parentheses, pursuant to the attached resolution as recommended by staff.
Okay, staff, do we have a motion? Motion. Board, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve, Mark Pascarella.
Mike Schotmeyer, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Andy Place approves.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to section 5, our executive update. So please welcome our executive director, Jacob Sipe, to provide an update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple quick updates here with the Housing Assistance Fund that we're currently is still pending with the U.S. Department of Treasury approval. This is a program that will be designed to provide mortgage assistance to prevent foreclosures. So we're still waiting for the U.S. Department of Treasury to provide us with the approval to launch this program. We are still continuing to take homeowners who are interested in the program to sign up and encourage them to go to 877gethope.org to sign up to receive updates. So when we do go live, they'll know exactly when they can apply. And we can also provide them with updates on the program as we wait for Treasury. So Indiana Emergency Rental Assistance Program, as of Tuesday of this week, we've assisted over 25,000 renters. We've provided assistance for rent and utilities. Close to about 80 million has been paid. We've obligated up to 15 months. We're close to around 250 million has been obligated. So that's a quick update on that. Earlier this month, on November 2nd, we participated as a sponsor, but also more importantly, our general counsel, David Stewart, participates on the Indiana Commission on the Status of Black Males, who hosted the 21st annual Black Male Conference. And I just want to thank Dave for his leadership and also his partnership and leading the commission in helping pull together the Black Male Conference this year. It was highly successful, and just really proud of our team that was engaged, and specifically Dave for being supportive and making sure that that event was successful. So thanks, Dave, for the work that you do. Dave is our general counsel, and you've heard him also helping us run our board meetings too. So make sure that those are smooth. December, we have a quick turnaround for our December board meeting, which is going to be on December 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I think we're planning for that to be another virtual board meeting as well. So looking forward to seeing our board members for the last board meeting of 2021 here in just about 4 weeks. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Jake. I too just want to say thank you to the board for their guidance, and always want to commend the housing staff. I know that they've got a lot on their plate over there and they're working hard, and just appreciate all they do. So with that, is there any other business from the board to discuss?
Madam Chair, I have a quick comment. On that resolution that you guys just passed, I'll be sending that around to you in about 5 minutes, just to make everybody aware that I'll need everyone's signature on that. And then I'll be sending you and Jake copies of the board minutes from the previous month to sign. So expect those in about 5 minutes through Adobe Sign. And I also wanted to say, I probably shouldn't jump in, but that event was awesome. But it takes a team. So our communications team was there, ERA was there, and Michael McQuillan was there. So they all helped out on that. It was a great event.
Well, thank you for your work on that, David.
Very
we really
welcome.
appreciate that. Any other business to come before the board? Okay, hearing no other business, then this meeting is adjourned at 11:08. Thank you, everybody.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.